So everyone, welcome back to the Profitable Franchisees podcast. We're here for franchisees to help and add value to help you to be more profitable. And of course, we're bringing powerful stories and strategies to help you. And today I'm really excited because we have Taylor Fielding here from TFM Digital. And Taylor has a vast experience in franchising, works with a lot of franchisors and franchisees around their marketing. And it's probably the biggest question I get asked is around local area marketing. And I absolutely think that local area marketing is your key to more profit as a franchisee. You know, you can't just leave it to head office to just do all the marketing. You need to have that local connection. But I know the thing that freaks most people out, which is why we've got Taylor here to talk to us today, is around digital marketing at a local area level because people freak out with the tech. We're going to talk a little bit about what you need to do before the tech as well as the tech and everything we're doing. So welcome first up, Taylor. But first of all, tell us a little bit about what TFM Digital does and how you actually got into marketing, because maybe you should, tell us a little bit about your experience prior to setting up TFM, because you've got a vast experience in marketing.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Tracey. So my background in marketing started straight after uni. I worked at some of the bigger agencies in Australia. So one in particular had the big guys. We had like the Maccas, we had the Telstras, we had the sort of the bigger multi-location and franchise brands. So my first 5 years was actually spent working on Telstra retail stores for Vita Group, which was run by Maxine Horn back then when she had Phone Zone, and then changed all her stores into the Telstra stores. So working with a really big brand at national level, as well as working down right down to local area level too. So trying to connect a big corporate giant like Telstra with an area like Bundaberg or, Echuca down in Victoria. So understanding how marketing plays across the entire spectrum, which was really cool. So my skill set came from working on this brand, and then I moved on to things like Macca's, which again is a really great franchise, and they do a very good job of connecting with their local area, both from like a community integration from sports clubs and those kind of things to localized campaigns in different areas as well. Coming to the end of my time there, I was talking to a few franchisors who were friends of mine, so Jeremy at City Cave and Peter at Fitstop, and we were talking around, or they were needing some help and just guidance on what to do for their franchisees. I think they both had, 10 or 20 locations at the time. So just kind of setting up themselves up for success. So I became almost like a bit of a sounding board. And what I realized is that there wasn't a marketing agency very well equipped to help franchisees and franchisors for local area and sort of big brand stuff. So I wanted to really kind of connect the dots between those two and really give an option for people to have an agency that understood how networks like that actually work, how that relationship between a franchisee and a franchisor works, marketing fund and non-marketing fund. There are so many different ways to do marketing in franchising. I think that's why we're having this chat today, Trace.
Yeah. And you're so true. And there's a difference. A lot of marketing people, when I talk to them, they talk at that franchisor level, or they talk about national brands, whether or not they understand franchising. And so when they're talking to a franchisee, they're talking about strategies that are just, one, not economical, and two, actually not going to work for them. When I'm talking to franchisees, I'm like, leave the national stuff to head office. You've got to connect with your local community, which is probably the thing that a lot of franchisees do wrong. They sort of just leave it to head office and go, well, I'll let them do it. But they could be using digital at a local area and it really to help them grow in their business. But let's get to the basics. Where do you start? If you were a franchisee looking at your local area marketing and going, hey, I want to add in some digital to my local area marketing, where do you start? What do you do? It's not like you just chuck an ad up on Facebook. What do you do?
I think, especially now, we're in a really exciting time where there is so much data available. You can use things like Facebook and Google to help understand your audience a little bit better. We take a little bit more forward at TFM. So we actually use what's called local profiling tools, such as Roy Morgan, and these are big fancy words, I know, but they help us to understand what the population around my franchise location looks like, what they feel, what they care about, what are their hot buttons, and how do you actually reach them? Especially, we need to understand whether my center is across the road from a kindergarten or a retirement center, because they're two different things, right? They're both going to want to speak to two different audiences. Am I on a main road? Am I easy to be seen? How do people find me if I'm just seeing a Facebook ad? So before we start with any new franchisee, no matter what brand they're from, we recommend they do some local profiling with our tool. It takes us, 2 to 3 hours to pull the data, but they'll come out with such rich information, which won't really change over the time that they own their franchise, whether it be 5, 7, or 10 years. The information's pretty similar, given that they buy in that area. I actually wish that franchise groups would give this information to the franchisees on the way in, so they actually knew what to do from the very front. But sometimes this stuff can be really expensive. So I'm happy that we're able to offer that kind of thing. So that would be my first port of call, is understanding who actually lives around me and how they consume media and what do they actually care about. So that's a good place to start before launching straight into any sort of digital strategy.
Just before you keep going on, I didn't actually know that there was a tool to pull that data, because I always say to people, before you start marketing, know who you're marketing to. Exactly what you've said, the way you market to a 20-year-old female is different to how you market to a 60-year-old male. I didn't know you could pull that sort of demographic information for your area, because as a franchisee,
Have you ever had a call from someone offering you a gift card or coming to your door with an iPad? Because those are the actual surveys where all this information is actually pulled from, and then they mix it with ABS data. So it's all super robust. I think Nielsen's one of the tools that we use, and they actually survey 22,000 people every quarter, and they extrapolate that across the country. So it does give us a very good understanding of who lives in the area, in terms of, are they singles, are they married, how old they are, how many kids they've got, what sort of life stage they're in. Is the cost of living crisis really affecting them, or are they still spending, buying avocado on toast every morning? All that kind of stuff is actually what they ask and gives us information to use.
So then how do we take that information and use it, especially if we want to do digital marketing? So, how do we take that information and then turn it into a marketing campaign? Even, does that alter where we would do that marketing? Does it alter what we say in it? How do you take that? If I was a franchisee and you gave me that information, how do I then use that?
So what it does is it breaks them down into personas. So then it actually asks them to show us over a typical day, be a weekday or a weekend, what media are you using? Do you wake up in the morning and turn the radio on, or do you watch sunrise in the morning, or do you get in the car and listen to Spotify? How much time you spend on Facebook? That will actually give us the best places to put our media. And knowing franchisees, we've only got about $1,000 or $2,000 a month. So we default to some of the bigger sort of channels like a Meta or a Google, but we're always encouraging our franchisees that we work with to try one or two channels more, so that we're not out of that busy space that we know Instagram, Facebook is. A really good example is we've asked a few of our franchisees over the last 6 months to jump onto TikTok. And it can be quite a bit daunting to jump on there, especially not knowing the content. But it's becoming such a great place for new brands to get onto. For example, we're just about to start working with the Pool Works group and getting them to put some, tips and tricks around how to keep your pool refreshed, especially going into summer. So even just adding that extra channel will allow them to get new people into the Pool Works brand.
I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I was somewhere and someone said that like paid advertising on TikTok currently is really cheap, I suppose you should say, because people are not using it. Even though it's a well-used platform, people haven't yet got to that side of actually using paid ads on it. Was that true, or was that just a lie?
Correct.
Someone
Yeah.
told me?
So you think about like Facebook and Google, it's very user-friendly. So most people that, can use a computer can really jump into Facebook and have a go at it. Maybe not to the best of some people, but they can definitely get on there and run ads. TikTok is still a bit infant in the way it operates, so it's still a little bit hard to work out what's going on. So that's why we're encouraging people. It's less crowded, is a good way to put it. So really understanding if your demographic around your area fit into TikTok, you could add that one onto it. Or potentially they watch a lot of YouTube, which we know YouTube's part of Google, so we can target right down to what we do from search behavior and that kind of stuff. And that's, I think, where you made a good point before around taking what head office has it as a national level and then localizing that down to your area. And I've seen some really great examples of that, even going back to my Telstra days. We would actually go in and photograph the local store team and put them on the billboard. Or we'd talk about the manager, Sarah, and how she's lived in the area and she bought her first phone at this store and now she loves telling the community about how they can get connected to talk to their grandkids. that kind of stuff. If there's any ways that you can localize your messaging or your creative or anything to do with that in your local area, it'll have a better effect. Another great example I saw the other day for one of our clients is they took a photo of their customer that had come 100 times, but they did it, at the landmark in the local area, right? So people immediately, while they're scrolling, they say, oh, that's the big roundabout that's near my house. So they know it's actually their center. And I actually probably know Sue because she's been to the gym with me 100 times.
Yeah, it is that, like you've got that activity where people are scrolling, they've done it. I've also heard that using like, I know there's a fancy name for it, like user-generated content, but like say someone's giving you a testimonial or something, but actually using that video testimonial as an ad rather than just posting it. How do you feel about using that content as paid?
Yeah, I think again, if you can use some of your members or customers that are already coming, your customers are going to be your best advocates. But I think what my advice here is to make sure it's genuine. You don't want to grab someone and make them talk about your franchise just because they're there doing it. It has to be wanted. Oh, sorry, it has to be given. Otherwise, it's just going to feel disingenuous. I always say that customers can sometimes tell when things are overdone. You've probably watched some ads on TV before and be like, this is so forced, or this is just so not what I'm looking for. So I think if you're going to try that strategy, make sure you actually pick out and ask any customers or members that might actually be really willing to give you a glowing review to make sure that they're, when they're saying it, it's with passion.
Yeah. So you sort of mentioned before about, using things that a head office are doing. And most head offices, in franchising, most franchisors, especially if they do have some in-house marketing people, they'll usually have at least a 6-month, if not 12-month marketing strategy in place. But the number of times I find franchisees don't even know what's coming up. What would you recommend? How do you piggyback off what the national head office is doing? Say they've got a campaign. Let's say they've got a campaign around Christmas. What's some of the digital activities you could be doing to marketing your business back end off that campaign? It doesn't even have to be
Yeah,
digital activities, to be honest.
I think grabbing as you said, the marketing plan, they normally have this ready to go by your conference that they have that year, right? That's when sort of everyone presents what's happening. So they should definitely have a 12-month plan. If not, if they don't, ask if you can help create it. There's no better person to help create the marketing plan than the people that actually own the locations and work in the brand. I've done that a few times and actually had people, got input from these different people to understand what sort of campaigns resonate well, because you're only going to learn something. So grab that. Then also if you can get the assets. There's a lot of programs now that you
Explain
can
what
drop
an
in
asset
different
is.
elements. So
Explain what an
an
asset is.
image or a video. Yeah, so
Yep.
an image or a video that the brand's created for national marketing. They sometimes have pictures, videos that you can edit. I'm not talking about colors and that sort of stuff, but drop in, as we talked about, local elements. So the store name, your local store manager, anything like that to localize it a little bit more. And then you can jump into Facebook or to Google or anything like that and actually start placing those in your territory as you see fit.
Okay, so let's talk a little tech, because I know a lot of people they get scared thinking, oh, I've got to go into the back end of Facebook and I'm going to, let's use that as an example. Like, I've got to jump in the back end of Facebook. I know Facebook ads would work for me. I'm going to jump in and do that. And a lot of people go, oh, no, I'm scared to do that. Besides the fact of creating the copy for it, but just the tech of setting it up. What are your thoughts? If someone said, I'm going to do this myself, what's some little key tips and hints of how to do it well and get it to work?
This is really exciting. I'm actually releasing a white paper that we're creating at the moment around all these AI tools that Meta and Google have created for advertisers like store owners, that sort of stuff, which I would not recommend doing, because essentially they're geared at just kind of getting money into the platforms and showing sort of vanity results, which are things like impressions and reach and that sort of stuff. If you're a business that you either book online or e-com, or you need leads, you want to be looking at those sort of hard results. So I would invest the time into understanding what are the drivers of your business and then linking that up to what you actually see in Facebook and Google. So if you do need a purchase, make sure that the purchase conversion setup is in your platform. Or if it's leads, make sure that you're optimizing towards leads. And there are a lot of free tutorials on YouTube. Even Facebook Blueprint is a great place to get started to understand that. I would not recommend going in there and just using the AI platforms that are set up for that.
Yeah, oh, that's a good tip to know straight up. So, I mean, it's coming back to, again, not only knowing who you're marketing to, but what's the purpose of that marketing. So obviously when you're going to Facebook or whatever, you're actually telling them what you want this ad to do. Like, we want to convert it, or we want it to just create a lead, or of the interest of where they're at. So I think even I have a lot of people who get shocked about how you can drill down on the demographics in the back end. They don't realise how narrow you can actually get a demographic down to who you want to show it to. Do you have some little hints or tips around when you're choosing demographics to tailor it down? Like, should you let it go wide, or should you narrow it down to a really narrow audience in a local area if you're trying to, get a good return on
So
investment?
there's two different types of campaigns that I would recommend for someone to start off. So there's, if you're looking for just new customers, I would keep it really wide. It's really easy in Facebook to over-target, especially if you're within a confined territory. That person that has this much money likes this, likes this, likes this. There's not going to be many of those people in that area. So you want to make sure that you keep it really broad, because the platform will learn as people start submitting leads or purchases or whatever you're looking for from the platform. Facebook and Google are really quick at learning who that person looks like, and will find more of those for you. So my tip to my franchisees that are doing some of the ads themselves is put your territory map in, and then just put in your profile. So say if you want people who are 30 plus, maybe put one or two interest targeting. So if you are a gym, you might put in there interest in running or interest in weightlifting. That's it. Don't overcomplicate it, because the platform will start to learn over the month that you're running it, or the 2 months. My second tip is, if you've already got an established database of customers, if you've been open for a long time, you can upload that into Facebook, which is 100% privacy safe, and it will scan the list, and it will find more people's profiles that look like the ones that are on your list. So you can let Facebook and Meta do the guesswork for you, which is a really, really cool tool to use.
That is really cool to use. That saves a lot of thinking to say, hey, these are my favorite people. When you're doing your list, guys, maybe take out the ones that are real problem clients or customers. Just put in all your faves and that. You sort of mentioned this before. We're talking on that tech, but it's then knowing whether or not your marketing is actually working. And you sort of touched on that vanity metric, which I talk about to people all the time. Can you tell us a little bit more? I hate to say this because you're in marketing. I hear a lot of marketing agencies, a lot of marketing people talking to a client, and they're saying, oh, yeah, I had a franchisor who did a TikTok ad, and he said to me, oh, we had 50,000 views on our TikTok ad. And I said, let's have a look at your analytics. And what we worked out was that 98% of those people didn't actually watch that video for more than 2 seconds. So, it sounds good. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about when you say vanity metrics. Is that similar to what I think?
Yeah, 100%. I think as an agency or anyone in marketing, you can cut the data up to make it look good. But as I said before, you need to understand what are the drivers of your actual business. Again, if it's leads, you want to be making sure that people are actually going to the landing page and actually filling out the form. So you can actually track back if you set up the tracking properly. And sometimes tracking can be confusing to set up. So you might need someone at a marketing agency or your website person to make sure you're tracking set up, and then you can actually track off where the drop-off is, and you want to be converting to that point. So things to watch out for is if you've had a lot of traffic come to your website and no leads, it means there's an issue with your form. If you're getting a lot of video views and not a lot of clicks on it, it means that it's probably just sitting in someone's feed and just scrolling through, and they're not actually doing anything from it. So as I said, if you can focus more on the actual hard numbers behind it, not views, not reach, not even clicks really, you want to be making sure that you're optimizing to the right thing. And there is a bit more tech behind that. But I think even when you're interviewing marketing agencies or people to help you out, make sure that you're actually giving them your hard KPIs. There's nothing worse than I hate is when people just say, oh yeah, just get me more sales. And you're like, well, how does your sales process work? Do you call them up? Like, are you a gym where you call them up, or do you need someone to book in online? Like, we need to understand that entire thing. Otherwise, your campaigns are just going to get views. It's not actually going to get sales.
Mm. When we talk digital marketing, I think a lot of people, maybe it's me, but maybe a lot of people when you think digital marketing, they just immediately think, oh, Facebook ads. Okay. But can you tell me about some of the different types of digital marketing you can be doing, and even how that then relates to things that are not digital? There's old school marketing is working again. It doesn't have to be just the magic box, as I call it, that just spits out leads for you. What else does it entail? What things do you sort of pair together?
So there's a couple of ways you can do this. I think a really great one, as you mentioned before, is grabbing that marketing plan from your franchisor, looking across the year and understanding what local businesses in your areas have the same audience as you. For example, if you are a health and wellness business and there is a hair salon down the road, they generally have the same sort of audiences. So in advance of the promotion or whatever that is happening, you could ask them to do a joint venture with you, right? So you could we could both build your database or use each other's databases. And when I talk about database use, it's things like posting on your own Facebook page that you're collaborating with the hair salon down the road, or can we send out a joint newsletter to both databases promoting that we are celebrating Mother's Day coming up and we're doing a Mother's Day pack with these two things in it. So what I'm finding in the last sort of year where it's getting super cluttered is when businesses actually band together, especially in local areas, because it just means that you're super ingrained into that local area, right? So they have more trust if you're with another trusted brand from the area. So that's one way. Another way is, and we're going to get really technical for a second in terms of digital marketing.
Okay.
You can now do things like connected TV. So if you have recently moved into an apartment building where there's no aerial, or you have a smart TV and you connect to the TV via the app, so Channel 7, Channel 9, KO, Foxtel, you can actually buy the TV ads on there, and you're only buying your area. You're not buying all of Brisbane or all of the Gold Coast or all of Sydney. So you can actually start to get, if you've got good creative, you can actually start to buy digital TV ads, almost the same cost that you can buy some Facebook ads now and get onto the big screen.
Okay.
Had to
Right.
throw the one in there for the high achievers.
I hadn't heard of that, and usually I'm up to date with a lot of marketing stuff, but that's amazing, because TV is, out of reach, and people aren't watching necessarily free-to-air TV just being shown. They're often watching it through a digital app or catch-up TV and all those things, and, you have that opportunity. So you even mentioned before about doing things on YouTube to help with your search engine stuff.
Yeah, so you can, through Google Ads and the platform, you can put in interest-based targeting or even in-market. So if someone is in market for a massage, based on what they've searched in the last 30 days, it'll start showing some YouTube ads either across their TV, their mobile device, or their tablet based on where they're watching. So we can get really smart with sort of the data that we're utilizing from other places that they might be doing the activity.
Okay, so let's go back a step, because even you've said this stuff, my mind has started ticking. This is my problem when I'm doing the podcast, is sometimes people are saying stuff, I'm like, I need to start taking some notes, because there's some things. I have to come back and watch it again so I can take some notes, because my brain is going crazy with ideas. But let's take a step back. Let's say we're sitting in front of a franchisee who hasn't really been doing any local area marketing. They want to grow their business. They know they need to bring in some new business. What should they get started on? So they've got their demographic. They know who they're looking at. What's the next step? What's the simplest ways to get out there?
I think Google search is a great place to start. And if there's already enough demand for the service or product you're offering, and you can do on Google Ads, you can look at how many times your keyword is searched per month in your area. So for example, I'm going to use massage again. It's a really great example to use. I would look in my local area at how many people per month are searching massage. If there's enough that I can do some Google Ads to drive traffic to my website, I would just run Google Ads, because there's already people searching for you. So you just need to get in there. If there's not enough people in your area that are searching massage, you need to create demand somewhere else. That's where Facebook or YouTube comes into play to build the brand awareness that there is massage available in their area now. So you're either creating demand or you're converting demand. We always call it, if people are going up the funnel too quickly and trying to do Facebook or TV or any of those bigger sort of channels, and we're leaving $50 notes on the ground that we're not even converting down here, right? So let's make sure we're picking up the $50 notes over here before we start getting more people to drop $50 notes over here. So I think as step one, Trace, would be to really understand if there's already a lot of demand happening in your area that you can take a hold of.
It's a really good point. It always amazes me how, we're talking this, a lot of what we're talking about today is not just digital marketing. A lot of this is marketing full stop, understanding who you're trying to target and then working out the best ways to get in front of them. But it isn't a magic, click a couple of keys and all of a sudden the computer's going to start spitting
Let's
out
have you can
leads
turn
to you.
on.
Or unless you have the magic button. Do you have the magic button?
I wish. And I don't have the technology where my phone's listening to me either, because that doesn't actually exist. No, I think people get caught into the trap where they think marketing's a tap. So they only turn on marketing when they need it. It's about actually priming the audience in advance. So we always suggest that people keep a level of marketing on. You might increase it around Christmas time where there's more stuff happening, but you definitely need to have some type of always on marketing throughout the year to make sure that you stay in someone's consideration set. So when they do need a massage or they do need a gym membership, you're actually already in their minds when they think of it. So I think a level of always on is needed. Around promotional periods, that sort of stuff, that's where you kind of bring in those bigger, higher level channels that we were just talking about, because you want to create a lot more demand quickly. And that's where we talk about more investment into platforms and that kind of thing.
So we're going to wrap up in a second. I think we're going to have you back because there's so many questions now. I'm like, oh, we need to talk more about TikTok. We need to talk more about Google search. There's so many things. So maybe some of your team might also come on too. I always recommend to franchisees, like especially around social media and stuff, is to actually follow other franchisees within their brand, because you start to get some really good ideas, or following other people. Like some of the stuff that TFM came up on my TikTok this morning when I was slightly procrastinating, where you all dressed up for book week and went out for lunch, and I was like, that was hilarious. But to actually start piggybacking off other franchisees. And it used to be, tell me if this is wrong, you used to be able to go and see what other people's ads were like on Facebook. Can you still do that?
Yeah, it's called Facebook Ads Library. So you just type that into Google and it comes up, and you can type in the franchise name and then any location. So if you've got someone in your area that you really like and admire, you can type in and see what they're doing. The same thing you can do on TikTok. It's called Ad Library or Ad Creation Library or something like that. It's similar. So you can go and look at all the videos and ads that they're running on their page as well. Even for just inspiration, it's really great. Especially if you've got another, like if you're the same brand, you've got another franchisee somewhere else, you can almost kind of rip and replicate their content, because chances are people in your area probably haven't seen theirs. So that's the whole part of being a franchise, right? Is that we can use framework stuff like that.
Yeah, and the other point would be to pick up the phone and call them and say, how's it going for you? Is it working? What are your results? So you don't just jump on board, because it's not necessarily something all franchisees are talking about. Like, oh yeah, I've been testing out the ads, because they don't want to tell anyone in case they're not doing it right or it's not working correctly. But, you start to learn. I remember when I was a franchisee, I knew what everybody was doing because it was the question I was always asking, so I could get the best information. And then when they started trying stuff, they would call me and tell me what was working. It was awesome.
It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that, so I was going to say, Trace, going back to what you said before, definition of working is making sure that you've got your KPIs set at the beginning. So we're not just infatuated by the views and the reach. I just want to really hone that point back home.
Yeah, that I sing from the same song sheet on that. It's not about the stuff that sounds really sexy. That's actually the stuff it's great. It's it's lovely to have lots of people following you, but it's way better when you have lots of customers paying you.
100%. You want them in your business, yeah.
Correct. And we'll talk about social media another day. People talking about number of followers and using Instagram influencers. I mean, you're an Instagram influencer. We know that. So, people pay you to post when you're doing that stuff. So let's take a step back. Let's say there's a franchisee listening to this and they go, I really like Taylor from what he was saying. I want to understand my demographics better and that. How do you actually help franchisees? Give us the plug so we know, because this is something I get asked this all the time, and you're one of the only people I actually refer to. As bad as this sounds, I don't like a lot of marketing agencies because they talk vanity metrics.
Started one.
I like people who want to move the needle. So how does a franchisee work with you if they want some help local area?
Yeah, I think reach out, and I think the first step would be to get this local profile done. They're about $300 for us to do. It's sort of 2 hours work, which is great. And then you'd have a complete understanding of who's in your area, what media what they're using or consuming per day. And then we could talk about some strategies after that, depending on what your sort of goals are for the business. It might be new customers. It might be how do we get more repeat customers? How do we get bigger transaction values? That kind of stuff. So step one, get the local profile done so we know who we're talking to and how to actually reach them. Then
Yeah.
step two, we can look at under the hood a little bit more of your business and pull some strategies together.
Okay, so imagine a franchisee listening to this going, I wish head office was doing better marketing at the franchisor level for our national marketing. Whether or not you have a marketing committee, whether or not you have a marketing fund, every franchisor is doing a certain amount of marketing on behalf of a franchisee. If they're listening to this and they go, I need my franchisor to talk to you, besides getting them to listen to this episode and hearing for themselves how knowledgeable you are, what's the best way for a franchisee to refer you to their franchisor?
Yeah, I think having a chat to them, letting them know that we are franchise and multi-location specialists. Like this is our category that we work in. We know it back to front. So again, a lot of the strategies that we've done are from the ground up. And when I talk about the ground up, it's like from local area, local storefront type media all the way through. So a lot of head office teams go to an agency that does the top level stuff and doesn't really consider the bottom level. We're the whole spectrum. So I think that's almost a bit of a selling point is understanding whether they're doing the whole picture. We're not here to take over other agency stuff. We might be able to help with just the local storefront type of marketing as well. We've got a lot of good case studies for pretty much every category now, whether it be QSR, whether it be fitness, health, whether it be e-com. We've got some really great case studies that we can just share just to get them to think a little bit wider outside of the scope of what they currently might be doing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I come in outside how oftentimes the national marketing doesn't relate at a local area, believe it or not. Some of the best campaigns I've seen. So I love hearing that you actually think about the franchisee first and then work their way through.
I mean, that's where the money's spent, right, is in the actual store. So we need to make sure we're actually doing as much as we can to engage each and every local area, which is really exciting. It's a really, being digital as well now, we can get more to that one-to-one level, which is a one-to-one messaging, which is almost like the holy grail in marketing. It's becoming easier and easier every day with digital marketing.
So if you want to hear Taylor on the podcast again or a specific topic, then reach out to me on my website at traceyleak.com and let me know. We need Taylor to talk about this or one of your team. You have a great team who are super knowledgeable. So we're so pleased you spent some time with us today. Is there anything else we need to know, Taylor, before I let you go?
Well, I think stay tuned for our white paper to come out, which is on exactly what we've talked about today. So it's just going to have a lot of deeper research into it. I think anyone who is going to attempt marketing or try marketing should read it because it is genuinely the best practices of local area marketing. So it's about an 8-page sort of research piece that we've conducted all ourselves, knowing that this is such a big space for everyone to be in. So that'll come out sort of in the next month.
Oh, as soon as it's out, let me know and I'll put the link in the show notes as well. So if you're here and it's a month after we've put this out, if the note's in there, then it's out there. Or follow me on my socials. Go follow TFM Digital. I'll make sure I post about it as well because I'm excited to read it too. So thank you so much for joining us today, Taylor. Just a little note again to all of our listeners. Another form of digital marketing. Make sure you come and sign up for my completely 100% free newsletter. The Franchisee Profit Pulse comes out every fortnight. Just go over to my website at traceyleak.com and sign up for that. And make sure you go and follow TFM Digital and so that you're in their space because you're always sharing lots of helpful things to help franchisees to grow and build a more profitable business. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Trace.